Everybody. Welcome in to this Chop Shop stream. Today, James and I are going to be building a Rockets big board together. It's going to be really fun. James, how are you doing today, my man?
Doing good, man. Doing great. Excited to talk about the draft and have some healthy debate and flesh out this big board, man. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Finally got a good night's sleep. School's wrapping up. Finally able to dig into as much film as I really want. And, I'm really excited for this. This is going to be one of the most fun things I've done. And it's also going to be, really informative and a really smart, healthy discussion. I'm super
Oh yeah,
excited. So
let's
you
go,
ready to
man.
jump right in?
Without further ado,
Yeah. Who do you have as your number one player on your Rockets big board, James?
I think we both know that we both had the same guy, right? For me, it's Chet Holmgren. Uh, Almost hands down. I feel there are a lot of ways that I could justify this. Like, firstly, a player that has the potential to be a defensive anchor and like a number 2 or 3 option is just like it's a rare package to find in one player. Kind of solves a lot of problems at once. And I also feel that Stone looks bad if he passes on Mobley and Chet in consecutive drafts. I'm glad we took Green in the end, but by now it's like, okay, man, it would be good to get one of these like generational defensive anchors. What do you think?
I agree with where you're coming from. I think that offensive skill set is slept on. He's an elite finisher, elite shooter, shooting like 40% from three this year on a really funky diet. I don't know if he's that good at the NBA level, but he's a shooter, like for sure. And then my biggest thing with Chet is what happens when he puts on 20-ish pounds. Not if, when. He's put on 15 over the last year and a half or so. What happens when he's 20 pounds heavier with an NBA weight room? What does the league do against that? Against that length and strength? He's already killing these much stronger college big men. Like, even despite weighing as much as I do, at 195 and being a foot taller than me. It's just so obvious to me. I think we're in total agreement there. Who do you have at 2?
At 2, and yeah, 2 is where there's definitely it gets interesting. Although I think again we're on the same page. I've got Paulo Ben Carro. When I look at Paulo Ben Carro, what I personally feel is that I see a player that's likely to be a star at the NBA level, but my concern is that he's going to be like somewhat of an empty calorie star or like a top, like maybe like a top 35 player that masquerades as a top 20, 15 player. Do you know what I'm saying? Like maybe a guy that gets you 25, 10, and 5, but then when you look at the advanced metrics, it's like his plus minuses aren't great because maybe he doesn't or doesn't defend all that well and he doesn't space all that well. But I would still take him number 2. I think the high end outcome is really high.
Yeah, I think that's the lower end on Paolo. And you even have him at 2, despite being a little
Yeah.
bit lower on him, because the shot making is just so obvious. And then I think I have him a little bit higher, though still at 2 than you, because I think that he has all the skills to be an elite off-ball player. We just didn't see it this year. I think he's shown it a little bit at lower levels. I think the defense was shown a little bit at lower levels. And I'm not going to super buy like, oh, he was an elite defender at lower levels, he's going to be one at the next level. But I think that showing that kind of stuff shows the potential. I don't think it's 100% certain, but I think those high-end outcomes are really, really high with his mix of IQ, physical gifts, and, shooting skills. It's just unprecedented, I think.
How is his lateral mobility, do you think? Like, because to me, when I'm thinking about defense, I know a lot of people question like his motor and like his desire on that end of the floor, but I'm not as worried about that. But does he have the lateral mobility to be a solid perimeter defender, do you think?
I think he'll be able to guard fours. I don't think he's like a super switchy guy, but I think he makes up for some of the lateral mobility by being able to use his strength to wall off some faster guys.
Right.
And I think that defense is like a really complicated mixture of lateral mobility, strength, and positioning. And I think he's way better at the strength and positioning part, even if those aren't as obvious as someone who we'll get into later, who uses primarily positioning and lateral strength and lateral mobility.
Yeah.
And now, unless you have anything else to say, let's get into the craziness.
This is where it's going to get nuts. Yeah.
At number 3. And I'll just tell you who I have at 3. I have Adrian Griffin Jr. at 3.
Right.
Who do you have?
First of all, I have Adrian Griffin Jr. at 9, so we're gonna obviously
Ooh,
have
ooh, this is gonna be
yeah.
tough.
I got Bari at 3, man. Like, I'm basically, sticking to pretty conventional wisdom. I think Bari is going to be, to me, it's the floor is so high. I think he's gonna be one of the better 3-and-D wings in the league, and I do understand that that's not necessarily a player you're looking for with the 3rd overall pick, but it's kind of a weak draft, and there is a higher ceiling there, and, like, if he were to develop, say, even a slightly above average positional handle, he's gonna be an MVP candidate. It's to me, it's just the fact that that's not very likely to happen, but the low end outcome is still really high to me. I think he's a dog, like that's one thing I see in Jabari Smith Jr. that I don't necessarily see in Paulo immediately is like I think he's really like a driven like winner, like a competitive kid, And which is not to say that Paulo is like not competitive, but like I think Barry's like a hyper competitive kid. So
Yeah.
what do we do to compromise here?
Ooh. Well, I will say about Jabari, I agree with the floor statement. I don't know. I don't want to use the term realistic because you get mad at me every single time I say realistic ceiling.
Yeah,
But I just
probable feeling.
yeah yeah probable. I just don't think there is an outcome. I think it's just so outliery with his athletic tools to develop a plus handle. I wouldn't bet on it at all. If it happens, awesome. I just don't think it really will
You just
in
wouldn't bet on it.
any in
Yeah.
any scenario.
Yeah, his
Uh,
3-point percentage is like it's troubling. It really
yeah,
is. Like
no,
it's
and there are the clips of him getting to the rim, but it's a lot of the defenses in the absolute worst positioning and against NBA defenders. That's not going to happen, you know.
Yeah,
Uh, so I have a proposition for you.
let's hear it.
What about instead of either of those guys at 3, we put Tari Eason out of
do
LSU.
you like
And,
Tari Eason?
I don't know if you know this about me. I love Tari Eason, specifically on the Rockets. And I'll go through the cell real quick. Tari Eason, 6'8", mega athlete, mega hard worker, probably the hardest worker in the draft, if not the hardest, then tied for the hardest worker. Incredibly smart, elite defensive playmaker, steal and block numbers that are completely out of this world, only ever matched by Robert Covington and Matisse Thybulle, who are just known awful defenders, just so bad
Yeah,
on the defensive end.
definitely two of the best.
Yeah, but they 7'3" wingspan. That is nuts. Elite finisher, can get
Yeah.
to the rim, run some stuff as a big man, and has flashes of off the dribble shooting. I think the ceiling's a little bit slept on. I think the floor's a little bit lower than even I care to admit because he's so raw. But I think that the paths are so easy, and we've seen so much improvement from him over just the last year and a half since Cincinnati that I'm completely comfortable betting on him to improve.
All right, I'll tell you what, man. We can get crazy and put him at 3, but then I think to compensate for the madness of that decision, we should put Jabari Smith at 4. Is that a fair
That's
compromise for you?
100% fair because
All
I
right,
have
so
Jabari at 5
all
right
right, so at
after.
5. Now, yeah, who do you have at 4?
So at 4, I have Tari. So my top 5
Right.
is Chet, Paolo, AJ Griffin, Tari, and then Jabari Smith. And
Okay,
that is,
all right, okay.
who do you have at
So,
5?
well, at 4, I have Ivy.
At 4, ooh.
Yeah, and then so my board is straight conventional 1 through 4. Like to me, I'm just rolling with the consensus top 4. At 5, I have Sochan.
Ooh. I see.
Yeah.
I have Sohan 6.
All right, so then I think he's our
Sohan
probably
will
number
end up
5,
being
right?
5. So do you want to give the Jeremy Sohan spiel?
Yeah. Yeah, what I love about Sochan and something I really believe about like NBA prospects is that like having unique physical characteristics carries an NBA player really far. Like if there's something I could point to and say there are not a lot of guys who have that combination of this trade and that trade, that's something I really look for in a prospect. And I think that his quickness and lateral mobility at 6'9", 235 pounds is like kind of weird, like and that's something I really, really like about him. So I think his floor as a defensive player is really high. Um and then he's got some stuff on offense too. Like he's got a handle. Like he can rip a defensive board and take it down the court and like find some solid passes and make good drives. Like if the shot comes around, I think we're quite likely talking about an all-star. And if it doesn't, I think we could be talking about like one of those players that a lot of people feel kind of is an all-star, you know, like a really high-end role player. I have a lot of faith in him.
Yeah, he is just like watching Baylor throughout the year. He defended everyone,
Right.
legitimately everyone, 1 through 5. He guarded some smaller fives who could sometimes get the blow by, but his recovery was so good that it just didn't matter. One of the few guys who I think can maybe be a real 1 through 5 defender. That's a real strength of this class, I think.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody's locking up 1 through 5, but being passable at 1 through 5 is pretty valuable. I think Tari can do that.
I
The
think so
reason
too.
why he's so high. Sohan can do that. And then there's one more guy who we'll get to later who I think really has a chance to do that, despite not having the same. It's in a different way, but
Interesting. I'm excited.
yeah,
Well, we're gonna make the same proposition where we can have Sochan at 5, but I think we kind of have to have Ivy at 6. You know,
yeah. I
I know
have
you really don't like Ivy. Do you want to
Ivy.
explain?
Yeah, I'm gonna get some hate for this. I think for the Rockets specifically, I have Ivy at 13.
Ooh,
Yeah, I'll elaborate. I think that there just aren't the pathways to consistent playing time and consistent development for Ivy here. We have so many guards. Even like I get you don't draft players just because you have Josh Christopher, but if you're struggling to get that guy playing time already, what makes you think you're going to have room for Jaden Ivey? And you're stunting everyone else's growth. He is not the best decision maker. He's not going to be able to play point guard. And being like a true point guard or someone who can handle the ball and set other guys up is the only kind of real guard that I want, or like a more elite nuclear type guy. And
yeah,
I just don't think I think Ivy he gets a lot of jaw comps. I don't see it. He doesn't have the same burst. His second and third steps are really good. That first step is relies a lot on screens. I
I'll
don't.
tell you.
I get the talent thing, and I think Ivy has. I think he's going to be really good. I think if he comes to the Rockets, that makes his chances of being really good really low.
All right. One thing I really like about Ivy is the wingspan. He's got nice long arms for guard. You know, like I know he hasn't always locked in defensively, and maybe sometimes he's a little bit underdeveloped on that end of the ball. But if he can be well coached on defense, he could become, I think, maybe a better two-way force than some of the comps that he gets. Like, although I don't think he's going to be as dynamic offensively as like a John Morant, but maybe he could be like a two-way version of John Morant. You know, with 85% of the offense like that. That's a really intriguing player to me. You know. So I mean, what do you think? Like, well, yeah, what do you think?
Okay, I think that we can go Jaden Ivey here at 6.
Yeah.
If we have AJ Griffin at 7.
Yeah, at 7 for AJ Griffin is so
Yeah.
totally
So
normal.
you give me why you aren't as high on AJ, and then I'll give
Y
you why I am.
Yeah, it concerns me that this guy has, like, lost athleticism, and we don't know if he's gonna get it back, right? For me to really see the vision with Griffin, he's got to be like a secondary ball handler and a secondary shot creator. Like, what I would want out of Griffin is, like, this guy's, like, your 3rd best offensive player and your best perimeter defender. I understand that he's an elite shooter, but I'm not looking at this point in the draft for, like, a floor spacer, you know? We could go get Malik Monk if we need a guy that'll shoot 40% from deep, you know? So, like, is he going to retain the athletic qualities that had him perceived as like a 3-and-D plus secondary shot creating type of guy, you know? And I'm scared that he won't.
I think the shooting is such a high baseline that he's going to get minutes no matter what. No matter what team he's on, he's going to get minutes. And that is the absolute floor, is that he is an elite shooter. That's a pretty good floor already. Like, I think that's the lowest of the low of the basement floor. The
Yeah.
ceiling is best or second best in this class if the athleticism comes back, because he's still an outlier strength guy, has a decent enough handle that's functional, like for his build. He has like a power dribble style. Uh, doesn't get stripped a whole ton. It's a little loose, but for a 6'7" guy, pretty good. And
Yeah.
as the athleticism came back over the year, he was basically generating a ton of paint touches, could get in there, could score, has good touch, and the shooting is just he can hit off the dribble or off spot ups. I think that like he has some versatility there that that floor is just you can't bet against it. Uh,
You make a good sell. I mean, like I have him 9. It's not like I don't hate him. You know what I mean? I
yeah.
just yeah, like I have some concerns, like, but I'm totally comfortable having him at 7. Who do you have at 6 on your big board? On your board?
So on my board, 6, we'll go 6 and 7 because 6 I have Sohan, and
Yeah.
then right after him at 7, I have Kendall Brown out of Baylor.
Wow, I Brown a little lower, and I really like Brown, but yeah, you like him better.
Where do you
So
have Brown?
I have Brown at 15.
Ooh,
Yeah,
okay.
although, man, he's so neck and neck with, like, 14 and 13, so it's,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, so at 6, I've got, my man, Osman Jiang. That's yeah.
Okay.
Uh, and man, the more tape I watch, the more I buy in, to be honest. And then at number 7, I have Keegan Murray, who I know you're gonna see as
Ooh,
lower than that. I'm not gonna push too hard for Keegan
yeah.
Murray, like, I understand that he's a low ceiling, high floor guy, and, like, it's not that exciting, but,
Yeah.
Osman, I've
Uz
gotta go to
yeah,
bat for my guy.
I understand. Uh, I can understand the Usman love. I am not there.
Yeah,
Um, I love the flashes. I think they're really good. I just struggle to see what he's doing consistently, like on an NBA floor, if the flashes aren't like passable, right? Like, what else is he doing that leads to a fine floor outcome? Like a fine, like
no
if he doesn't hit those top end outcomes, what else is he doing?
nothing, nothing.
Yeah.
It's all about the top end, baby, with the gang, right? Like, that's I know what you're
Mhm.
saying. Like, oh, dude, no doubt, this guy could be not in the league by the end of his rookie contract. I'm fully aware of the risks, you know? I just to me, like, a 6'10" ball handler with a fundamentally sound jump shot and, like, high levels, substantially above average court vision. It's just too much there for me not to gamble on. It's like a stock that, like, I mean, I wouldn't take him with the 5th overall pick or anything, but like if we were to trade up to the 13th pick, for example, to me, it's like buying a
Mhm.
stock for $5 that like could end up being worth $1 billion, or it might end up you might end up losing your money, But it's just like if we burn a single pick on a guy that doesn't work out, that's not gonna fucking bust up the whole rebuild. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to me, it's like it's worth it with this guy's ceiling because the ceiling to me is just nuts.
Mhm.
Also, what I always want to say about him is that it encourages me to see a guy improve throughout the year. Like if when a prospect's been inconsistent, that's one thing, but when their arc is like steadily in a linear
Yeah.
positive progression, that's a different thing for me. Whereas like if he had started the year hot and then he sucked and then he got hot again and then he sucked again, I'd be like, okay, who is this kid?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I understand that, and I'm with you. I really like that the history of growth. I just think that he was also just awful to start the year,
yeah,
genuinely, and then even before that, didn't have a history of being good at any lower level, even in shitty French leagues. You know what I mean? And you kind of want to see that baseline, and you're betting a lot with Usman on the growth at the end of the year being something. And I don't know if the growth at the end of the year was, oh, he got better, or oh, shots just started falling. I understand that's like, it's just tough for me. And I would rather take a bet on other guys who you can see like a path to contributing, even if it's not, I'm the star, I'm going to hit off the dribble jumpers. Uh, like, if you understand where I'm coming from.
I do. It's like I understand where you're coming. You understand where I'm coming from. We're
Mhm.
just kind of coming at it from different. So okay, we're doing 6 on our board right now, or 7?
So we got 6 is Ivy.
Uh huh.
Or wait. So we'll go through real quick and just name all the picks. So 1 is Chet, 2 Paolo, 3 Tari, 4 Jabari, 5 Sohan, 6 Ivy, 7 Adrian Griffin Jr.
Right. Why don't we compromise and just take either of Keegan Murray or Shaden Sharp at this stage, just
Ooh.
because they are a little more consensus picks and we disagree anyway. Like you do Kendall Brown, I do Osman,
I
and
do want to see, where do you have Dyson Daniels?
Yeah, Dyson Daniels I have at 13.
Okay, I have Dyson Daniels at 8. And Dyson is the other guy who I have as a 5 position defender. I think he's
Yeah,
incredible.
I thought that might be who you'd say. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Uh,
I can do Dyson Daniels at 7.
okay, so let's go Dyson here. We'll go Dyson because I think he also is a perfect fit and has a real
He
path
is.
to starting and playing. And I think that's really important for development of players. As much as everybody wants to go, let's just go best pick available, blah, blah, blah. If your best pick doesn't have room to playing, then what is the point of taking him? That's basically my
I
argument
mostly
with
agree.
Ivy. Yeah.
Yeah, to me, we talked about this, but I think you have to divide guys into tiers and then determine,
Yeah.
yeah, you take best player available if one guy looks like a superstar and another guy looks like, maybe a role player, but, like, when it comes to at a certain point, it's like fit does matter also, yeah,
Yeah.
and you know what I really like about Daniels is when you look at this Rockets team, it's like they definitely need wings, and they may or may not need a point guard, and it's like, well, Dyson Daniels can definitely be a wing, and he might be able to be a point guard, so, like, it's a really
Yeah.
tidy fit that way, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I love about Dyson. He is
Yeah,
like he's I think he's an elite combination of best pick available and fit.
yeah,
And I think it's just you can't miss with going with Dyson because worst case scenario, he's a lockdown defender who can do some cool connective passing.
yeah,
And that's exactly what the Rockets need.
exactly.
And
Where do
then
you have Jaden, Sharp on your board?
Shade, I'm gonna get more
He's
heat
not
for
even
this
on it,
one
is
as
he?
well. No, he's on it. I've come around a little bit on Shaden.
You were saying that in the group chat there, yeah.
Yeah, I have him, which is I'm still gonna sound like a hater for my positioning, but I have him at 17.
Yeah,
Uh,
you sound like a bit of a hater, but that's
yeah,
okay. Yeah,
no, I will say I the problem with Shaden is that he doesn't create easy baskets for himself. It's
okay.
all so tough. And if I was confident that he could be an off-ball player who's doing more cutting at the three and more off-ball movement into shooting, and if his shot had more versatility than just pull up or spot up, um, I'd be more into him. And I haven't dug as deep as I've wanted to in the film yet. I'm in the midst of it right now, and he could raise, but there's just a lot of other guys who I believe more in the film. I don't think he's as athletic, other than the bounce, as people believe. I think the high school highlight film angle also tricks you, and like
Yeah.
how much better relatively he looks compared to high school guys versus how he would look at Kentucky, with real college athletes. I I can get behind him being very high. It just I worry that the Rockets are not the right situation for him to develop.
I understand that. Yeah,
And
I understand that. It does concern me that, like, okay, so he's like Jalen Green with 2 extra inches of height. Like, it's not necessarily an ideal archetype to double down on. Like one thing I fear the Rockets are veering towards is like just tripling and quadrupling down on like scorers and like I love scorers. I'm so happy with Jalen Green, man. But by now it's like, yo, maybe we need some defensive wings and some bigs and like
maybe I think we
yeah,
I think we very
at some
obviously need
point,
some.
right? Yeah, like desperately, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't love Sharp fit wise, but the ceiling is high enough for me that I can get there, like certainly in the top 10. You know, Do-
yeah.
do-
Do
maybe
you
maybe we have to put him at number 8 though, man.
where do you have Duran?
Duran, I have a 12
At 12, I have Duran at 9.
at
So
9.
why don't does Duran at 9 after Dyson sound, and then we can go Shaden at 10. So let's go
Yeah, okay, that
Jalen
works for me. Yep,
Jalen Duran 9, Shaden 10.
yep, that
And
works for
then
me.
the 6 through 10 range.
But then
Well,
but then Osman's got to be 11, man. Come
yeah,
on,
we can make Usman 11.
is it
We
Usman? I can't believe I'm
It's
mispronouncing his name.
Usman. I think I'm mispronouncing it but I think it's Usman.
I've been saying Osman, but like I never because like
'Cause he's
half
French,
the time
right?
I watch his tape in on mute because I don't
Yeah.
understand. I
I
can't.
don't even know if the Australians get it right, but
That's the thing.
I think it's
Yeah,
Usman.
I find I get frustrated trying to pick out their accents sometimes, and I'm
Yeah.
like, just mute
So
this.
we will go the 6 through 11, since we just got 6 through 11, we'll go Ivy at 6, AJ Griffin 7, Dyson 8, Jalen Duran 9, Sharp 10, Jang 11.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, where do you have Benedict Mathurin?
I have Matherin at 12.
Funny, I have him at 11, so maybe he should be next, probably.
Yeah,
Just seems too
so
straight up.
do you wanna give the Benedict Mathurin sell? And we do need to talk about Duran. I
Well,
think just a little bit.
yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that. Let's go on Mathurin while we're on topic, right?
Okay.
But I actually want to ask you something about him because I think maybe you might know better than me. Like, if I was just going strictly on the tape that I've watched, I would be much higher on Mathurin. Like, I would love him. He looks like a really athletic, versatile wing, who can shoot, can dribble a little bit. Like, he looks like what I wish I thought Adrian Griffin Jr. looked like, honestly. But I've read, I think by now, 3 different scouting reports that say that Mathurin's motor on defense has a tendency to run out pretty quickly, and that he's not always focused on that end. And like, if he's going to be a 3-and-D wing plus, I need that motor, you know. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think the on-ball defense can be fine. I think that he was also tasked with being the by far best creator on a really good team that just didn't have a ton of creation. So he was like kind of the complete engine that made that Arizona team run, right? And so it is more understandable that the motor ran cold because he's also both the motor and the off-ball wing,
Yeah.
running around, sprinting off screens, constantly moving. So it's just I don't think the motor is the problem. I think it's the defense just isn't as good as you would like. I think he can only really guard twos and some like guardy or threes. I don't think he's like the most versatile defensively. The shot creation is kind of cool, but the setup's kind of janky. Um, I just like to see a little bit more on the defensive end from Mathurin. Uh, I really like the offense. The shooting is cool. The passing is and the handle is awful.
Awful, yeah. All
Yeah,
right,
he
okay.
dribbles it off his thigh a lot.
Ooh, that's not good.
Like on between the legs, off his foot. It's Eric Gordon-esque.
I don't even dribble it off my thigh, man. I have no handle. Yeah, no, all right.
So, but what are your
Yeah,
thoughts
he
on
doesn't
Duran?
sound like he's what we need, really, right?
No,
Like
for
fit wise,
sure.
it's not really there, is it? Like,
He
yeah,
shoots, he does cool stuff. Playing off of Şengün would be dope. But if you're gonna draft someone to play off of Şengün, what are you doing?
well, neither of us would take that course of action anyway.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. All right. So Duran, do you
Duran.
want to give a pitch?
Yeah. So the pitch with Duran is elite physical tools, baseline of elite inside scorer, upside as a passer, a little bit of stretchiness as an upside. I don't think it's super real. I don't buy the shooting a ton, uh, but he can maybe hit like a face-up jumper or two in a game if teams overplay him and there's no passing angle. The passing is really cool. The touch on those is cool. Elite athleticism in every way. He's only like 6'9". He's not like the 6'11" that people say he is, but he more than makes up for it with length, with athleticism. He's jumping, he is swatting shots that he has no business getting to because he can jump so fast, right?
Yeah.
And he jumps so high. And I don't see a path to being like a Bam Adebayo or, a top 5 center, but I see a really easy pathway to being a top 10, 12 center. And that's basically the sell, is that you're getting borderline elite center play and basically exactly what you want from the center position. And if he cleans up the smaller stuff, the technique, the recognition, and if he's playing in a real NBA system, he is super mega valuable.
Right. Let me say, first of all, I know you don't love comps, like in general, and I respect that stance. It makes sense. But do you think that like Time Lord with a little more offensive polish is like a decent comparison for him? Mainly in the sense of like he's an undersized center, but he's got the vertical and the wingspan to compensate for that on defense.
I
Right?
can see it kind of. I haven't watched enough Rob Williams to like, especially recently, like younger Rob Williams. I can see that a little bit. I think the passing is kind of similar. I think Rob Will is sort of better from higher, like more towards the free throw line. I think Duran's better from the low post kind of thing.
Okay.
But Duran has flashed a lot of different passing stuff throughout his career. So I can kind of see that. And especially like not going too much into like details, more of like just impact and what he's going to do.
Sure. Right.
I
Yeah.
think that's a pretty good comp.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So I mean, that's a really good player, and I love Duran. My thing is, I put Duran out of my head because, frankly, I don't think there's any chance this front office would draft him. But like like I just it seems to me like we're really currently prioritizing offense for one thing, and like floor spacing, and like I just don't think that this group is going to prioritize like a rim runner, rim protector archetype to take them in either draft range that we're going to be in. You know, like I don't think we'd trade up with the Brooklyn pick, and I know we're not going to use our top 5 pick on them, and we shouldn't really. So, I would say Duren is kind of out for me, but I'm really intrigued by him. I really think that you can absolutely play footwear out in this league. I don't think we're ever going to see a league where you need to play 5-out spacing personally, because I
Yeah.
just think that vertical spacing is like its own space, right? And if you could space
Mhm.
out a pick and roll, then that's just as functional as spacing out a pick and pop,
Yeah, and
right?
I think 4 out is arguably it's been shown that it's I think
Better.
it's easier and it's arguably better because
Yeah.
it's so much easier to execute and so much more understood. Maybe a 5 out is better if all 5 players can properly play it, but if you don't have the personnel like the Rockets did this year, what is the point of playing 5 out? You're
Well, because the other
completely
thing is
negating your advantages, your personnel.
exactly, because another thing is you need an elite ball handler for 5-out, because when you're running 5-out, you've got, obviously you've got an extra defender on the perimeter, so it's a tougher wall to break through, right? It's like, yeah, if you get through, then there won't be anybody at the post, but it's harder to get through. Like I think it's part of why the Rockets turned it over so much, right? So, I mean, yeah, you're right. If you have the specific system in place for it, then it can work. But I would love to see a player like Duren in Houston someday, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Yeah,
Uh,
I would take Duren as high as 5, genuinely. After like if I was like the Rockets front office, because I think if you also I think the Rockets could take him because my theory with their drafting at the moment is let's go for youth plus production and outlier skills. And basically whoever has the highest, like if you made that a math equation, whoever score comes out the highest, that's who they're going to take.
all
Uh,
right, that's interesting. That's proven so far. I mean, Jang is out if that's the
well, I mean, he's
criteria.
he's
Yeah,
got the youth and the flashes, and he's kind
yeah,
of out.
but
The flashes are outlier good.
the production though.
Yeah, the production is but
Yeah. All right, so
but
where are we in the board now?
so we got Shaden 10, Usman 11, Usman, and Benedict Mathurin 12, and I
Yeah.
think here at 13 we got to go Kendall Brown.
Yeah, I'm so down with that, man. Although, but well, actually, before you write it in, let me tell you who I have one ahead of him.
Okay.
Is your guy Leonard Miller?
Ooh, Leonard
I got
Miller.
Miller 14 and Brown 15. I think Miller looks to me like the shooting is a little more likely to translate, even though the form is funkier. At the same time, he's already relatively consistently knocking down 3-pointers, right?
Yeah, the form
And
is the setup is jank, but the touch is just so good that you don't want to bet against
yeah,
it out.
exactly. And some guys have had janky jump shots that they went in the bucket. Like it doesn't really matter about having good form if they're going in.
Yeah.
Uh, so and the fact that he's got a little extra length on Kendall too. But I'm fine with putting Kendall over him. But I just thought you might want to think about that
Ooh.
before.
So I think Kendall should go ahead of him. I think the athleticism is just so much better, and
It is much better,
I
isn't
think
it?
the fit makes more sense for Kendall Brown. Uh, so I think we go 13 Kendall, 14 Leonard Miller,
Okay.
and I will give the Kendall Brown sell real quick, and then we
Yeah.
can jump right back into Leonard Miller. Uh, so Kendall Brown, 6'8", mega athlete who is an elite passer. I've seen like the assist numbers don't match up to that, but assist numbers does not equal passing skill, right? He can make kick out passes like it's nobody's business. It's not his fault. His teammates can't shoot.
Yeah. Yeah.
The defense is a little bit suspect. That was one of the big sells coming in, but he played in a system that didn't really showcase his strengths on that end. I think he can be a cog in an elite defense. And I think that he can be a secondary guy, running secondary pick and rolls, capitalizing on creation, like advantages already made for him, and then getting downhill. Elite finisher, elite transition player, which he didn't get to show at Baylor because only Akinjo was allowed to dribble the ball.
Yeah.
And Akinjo drove me fucking nuts. Watching
Yeah.
him was an unenjoyable experience. But Kendall Brown, I think the passing is real, the finishing is real. If the shooting comes around, which I think it will, I think I believe more in his shooting than Sohan's.
I'd say the same, honestly. Yeah. If I may. So
Mhm,
Brown, first of all, what's strange is that like the shooting efficiency is fine. It's the volume is so low. It's like
mhm.
you almost wonder if it's a mental thing or if he just needs to adjust because it's like the form is fine. I think there's maybe a slight hitch or like it's not smooth, it's not fluid, but like it's fine. You know, it's not like fucked.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm like, dude, you're hitting like last I looked, he was hitting like 38% of his attempt per game. It's like, dude, just fire some shots off, man. Cause you like to me, what I see is a 3-and-D wing. If you can hit his threes, what I see is a 3-and-D wing with secondary playmaking responsibilities and just like a terror in transition. And that like you get the makings of a really good player, he's definitely a guy I'm excited about, but I would like to see him like come into the league and shoot threes at a decent volume.
Yeah, finished the year shooting 34.1% from
Ooh,
3. And but
okay.
that was even after like that last game where he in the tournament where he missed a ton in a row,
Okay.
despite them being wide open. I think the free throw numbers are awful, but he also didn't take a ton, only like 2 per game,
And what do you have? What's the percentage?
like 69%,
Yeesh.
which is yuck.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I think he's a better shooter than that. I think the touch is pretty good, which makes me buy him more. And the sell with Kendall Brown, why I have him so high I have him at 7, is
Yeah.
that to me, uh, potential is youth plus outlier skills plus flashes plus athleticism, right? Plus,
Yeah.
like, for teams, it's how well do you fit with the roster, all this different stuff. But if you're just evaluating someone in a vacuum, it's, how athletic are you? Can you beat the defense a lot? Are you smart? Do you capitalize on advantages? And Kendall Brown hits everything to a T.
He's
You
got a
know
lot of outliers, man. You're right. He's an
exactly.
outlier athlete. He's an outlier passer for a wing, like he is. So
Mhm.
yeah, he is like he's an exceptional, unique player.
Yeah, and I do not feel comfortable betting against Kendall Brown.
Yeah.
And then
All right, let's go.
you
Well,
ready?
will you give the sell on Leonard Miller because he's been on your radar for longer than he's been on mine.
Yeah, he hasn't been on mine for the longest. I will admit I'm still kind of new to the Leonard Miller experience, but the basic sell is 6'11", funky ball handling wing who can maybe be your primary like ball handler. Like that's the potential. He has been exploring the studio space, playing around with all the stuff that he's been given. He can kind of shoot. The touch is incredible. Outlier touch, like around the rim. Even like some of the ugliest shots I've ever seen go in the basket because his touch is just that good. The shot prep is awful, but I've talked to a few people, and shot prep is the easiest thing to fix in a shot.
Okay.
And if he can get that coming around, what happens if he's an elite shooter with great touch and all this different stuff, you know?
6'11", right? Yeah,
Yeah.
like, dude, I've only known about this guy's name for like a week. Like, I might be as obsessed with him as I am with Jang if I'd known about him for a month. You
Dude,
know, like,
and then you go back and watch the film, and he's hitting crazy stuff, elite interior finisher, and his movement patterns are just so different. You
yeah,
can't guard him normally, and the handle is so crazy. It looks like he loses the ball sometimes, and then it's like, oh no, that's just another dribble move, and then he goes combo, combo, combo right to the rim.
yeah,
He
right.
is like he's one of the best ball handlers I've seen at that size, and granted, it's against lower level competition, but like that plus some really cool passing reads that are a little bit slower. Granted, I think it's just pretty obvious to see that he has elite potential, and he's the
Yeah.
youngest guy in the class. The defense is meh, but he's a young guy. He's playing young guy defense. He's running around trying to create too much chaos. And I'd like to see him, in a more structured environment. But I think that he has the physicals and the mental to be a good defender.
That's what I think too. I mean, well, the mental, I haven't been familiar with him long enough to comment on that, but like the physical tools are there though. He's got the length and the mobility. You can see it that like he can move at 6'10", 6'11", man, and that's really what I don't know. I think so much of defense is defined by basically just like the drive. Like, do you have the will to want to defend, and then your physical characteristics, right? That's really what defense boils down to. So, like, if he's at all coachable, he should be able to be a plus defender.
Yeah, and he's got a 7'2" wingspan.
Yeah,
6'11", 7'2" wingspan.
come on.
And he's like a 3'4". That is just, and he moves like a 3-4. He's not like
Just yeah,
a 3-4 who's like how some people call Paolo a 3-4. I know we both disagree with that a lot,
yeah,
but
it's 4 or 5.
yeah, where Leonard Miller is really a 3-4. It's a little bit of the mystery box treatment, and I could see as I haven't watched as much film. I haven't watched all the film yet, you know, but I could see him ending up in that top 10, for the
That'd be
Rockets
crazy.
because he is such a great fit. There's such an easy path to minutes, and even if he's a little bit raw, he just does things that fill every single need on the roster.
Yeah. Man, I think you're gonna hate at least my 16 through 18. I know that you're not gonna
Ooh,
like these
ooh.
players.
Okay, hit me with your 16 through 18 guys.
Okay, 16, I got Ochai, Ajbadi, yeah.
Yeah,
Abaji,
Agbaji,
I
Ochai Agbaji.
thank you, okay.
Okay.
17, I've got Johnny Davis. Now,
Oh, I forgot about Johnny Davis.
I
Okay.
almost did too, man, and, like, yeah, obviously, that's generally really low for Johnny Davis, but we are doing a Rockets-specific big board, and it is
Mhm.
really hard to see how he could find a role in this team at
Yeah,
all, right?
unless he's
So,
a 3, and even
which I
then, it's
don't
like,
think he
is
is.
is he a 3? Maybe he's like a small ball 3,
Yeah,
but
right, you could probably put him like, you could put him in 3-guard lines, but unless you wanna run a permanent 3-guard line,
yeah,
right?
and I think
Yeah.
Johnny Davis is really good. This
Oh, yeah, I
ranking
like him.
Yeah, this ranking is not at all we don't like Johnny Davis. I think
No,
he just there's not really a path to minutes other than you're a 3 and D wing, and yeah, like the
and
handle
he's
isn't good
not
enough,
taking
the passing
advantage of
isn't
what
good enough to be a
he
1.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, should we put him next on the board, though? Since I actually
I
thought you
think
didn't like him.
No, I have Davis 11, actually. I really like Davis. I think that the skill is, like, undeniable. I think that even if because the passing and the creation is I think it's pretty real, and even if that doesn't work out, he's still a high level role player. Even if the
Yeah.
fit isn't great, I think he's just undeniably a good decision maker, smart player. There's one more guy who I would rather place here than Johnny Davis. I have one more guy in my top 10, and that's Marjon Beauchamp.
Okay, I both him at 20, right? So
Okay.
I'm totally cool with putting him over Davis, though.
Yeah. I think Marjon would have to be here over Davis because the fit is so good. I think the potential with Davis is higher, but Marjon has some of the same cells while being way more skilled in areas that matter. Like he's an elite defender, like
Yeah, you
straight up
think so?
elite
Yeah.
defender at the wing spot. The finishing, absolutely incredible, absurd finisher. I think the shooting is real, great touch. The potential isn't as high as you would like, but I think that he's just so obvious as like a starting level NBA player that you can't miss on this pick, and he's gonna be like a playoff level guy.
Okay, that's a good sell, man. And I will admit, actually, my 19 like by the time I get down to 19 and 20, I'm talking about dudes that I've watched a little bit less of. So
Okay.
Bochamp qualifies as one of those guys. Like for you to say he's an elite defender, that tells me that I haven't looked at him as closely as I need to. So
Okay. So Marjan at 15, and then do you want to go Johnny Davis at 16,
yeah.
and then uh, at 17, I think we have to go Keegan Murray
Oh my
because
God, we don't have Keegan Murray on the
yeah, we
board
don't we
yet.
don't have Keegan Murray yet, but
I
I
almost
think
think we should reevaluate, dude. We can't put out a board with Keegan Murray at 17, man. We'll get killed.
I think
We'll get
I
killed.
think I think he could go at 15 above Marjan. I can see that.
Yeah.
I can't put him higher than Leonard Miller or Kendall Brown in just because I think that the value that they add, even at their lower end outcomes, is pretty comparable to Keegan. Genuinely,
Yeah, all right. I mean, I had Keegan at 7, let the record show, but that's fine. Yeah, 15's fine.
yeah. So 15
Yeah.
Keegan Murray, 16 Marjan, 17 Johnny Davis,
Yeah.
and so that leaves 18, 19, and 20. And so we have 3 spots left to fill.
Who
And
do you
so
have?
who are your 3 highest guys left?
Okay, Jaden Hardy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've got Hardy at 18. Let me give a quick little sell on Hardy,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't love him, but I do like him, I guess. And like, I see a really well-rounded offensive guard. I think he's got strong passing ability, like for a scoring guard. He kind of reminds me of Tyreek Evans as a rookie, and I think Tyreek Evans would have been a much better player if not for the fact that I think he had some mental health issues, and like he got suspended and missed a year, and like
And
that
played for
doesn't
the
help.
Kings.
And he got drafted by the Kings, which also doesn't help. Yeah, like I just see To me, I like scoring guards that can also pass versus like passing guards that can also score. You know what I'm saying? Hardy had a similar trajectory in a lot of ways to Jiang, where he started the year off horribly and then he started to flash some potential, right? Like, I don't think he's very likely really to be a superstar player, but I see a guy that can make a couple of all-star games throughout his career, like in his best couple of seasons, you know? Uh I don't love him for the Rockets because I don't love guards for the Rockets, period. But you know, he's 18 on my board. That's yeah. To tell me why you dislike him so much. I think you're worried
I
about the efficiency.
about everything
Okay.
except for the spot
Yeah.
ups. He is an elite spot up shooter.
Yeah.
Incredible. But he doesn't understand that. And he thinks he's CJ McCollum, which he is not.
Okay.
And that's why the efficiency, he's shooting like 60% on open spot ups from every range. And his 3-point percentage is closer to 30, I think,
Yeah.
than that 60% number. I do not have Jaden Hardy in my top 30. I'm going
Right.
to be honest with you. He shot 27% from three, despite the
Another argument I would
wide
make for
open
him,
one.
and this really has nothing to do with watching tape or anything that maybe an intelligent person would argue about. But like, my thought is this kid was like straight up like number three, like on like only a year ago, and part of me just wonders like, is there still something there? Like, I sort of like gambling on guys that were high and dropped, and it makes me wonder like, well, maybe he wasn't top three, but maybe he's not bottom three either. Like just
Yeah, no, I think he's definitely worth a shot in the early second round, maybe even the late first if you're the right team,
we're
because
not the team for
maybe
it.
yeah, I don't think we're the team for it at all because the defense is awful. It is god awful. Um, and the passing, he's good at passing, but he doesn't make passes that he should all the time. He doesn't pass it enough. Uh,
Yeah,
but the last three guys that I have left top are two of them are guards, guardy wing E types, and then so those are Jan Montero, who's my top guard on the board, and then Bryce McGowan's, who is a scoring wing, and
what
I
how do
can
you
give
feel about Malachi Branham or whatever? You not so into
Malachi
him?
Branham. I am not as into him as these two. I think Branham doesn't create space. He's like 6'5" Jabari Smith, which is not nearly as valuable as
That
6'10"
ain't
Jabari
good.
Smith, and he's not as
Yeah,
good of a shooter.
yeah.
The handle is better. He gets into the paint better, but it's not enough to where it's making up for the toughness of all his other shots. I think he's a really good spot up shooter, but if that's all you're adding, the defense isn't great. The passing is You're getting pretty basic level reads from a guard level prospect. Jan is the complete different story. Jan, the film is goofy because he played in Overtime Elite, which is the goofiest league out there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It is the definition. It's the goofy league. But
yeah.
Jan is an incredible shooter. Off the dribble, from deep, from three, from mid range, at the rim. He is fucking incredible. And that plus being an elite passer with elite vision, that is exactly what you want from your starting guard who, is going to be fine or maybe has a chance to make an all-star game.
So
Like,
what holds Montero back so much? Like, because he's another guy that I think used to mock a lot higher that took a dive.
I think it's the overtime elite. It's playing in a shitty
Yeah.
context when like playing against high schoolers, and you can tell that he's just playing around a lot of the time. Like there are a lot of shots that he misses really badly because he's just trying crazy shit all the
Okay.
time. And I think that he's a lot better. You go back, watch the Spanish league film, you watch him against like more top high school level guys, he is killing them. Like he is, and the only guys he gets locked up by are the Thompson twins, and that's not a bad thing at all. That's not a
No.
negative.
Yeah.
Everyone's getting killed by the Thompsons, who we'll talk about at a later date at some point. But
Yeah.
Jan is a killer. I think he's got the mentality. He locks up guards whenever he's like engaged. And I'm like, if they're engaged is a bad thing. But when you're playing in the OTE and you've played in pro leagues before, the if you're engaged thing I think is pretty valid.
So why did he choose the
I,
overtime? Yeah,
they,
it's like,
they offered him a lot of money. I
oh
think that's
yeah,
what it is.
right.
They,
Yeah,
they
okay.
paid a shit ton.
Yeah. All right, man.
Uh,
I'll tell you what. To be honest with you, we have three spots left.
yeah.
I'm gonna just let you fill them out because you at this stage in it, you're a lot more knowledgeable than I am, you know? So I'm
Okay.
comfortable with that if you're comfortable with that.
I will take it. So we'll go Jan Montero 18. And then have you seen Bryce McGowan's?
Bryce McGowan's, I've got a total blind spot, man. I know very
Okay.
little about him.
I'll give the sell for Bryce McGowan's, and I think you'll love him. I think you should really check him out
I
because
will.
uh he's awesome. But he is a 6'7", really skinny, but he's an elite scoring wing who basically carried Nebraska's entire offense this year. Uh can hit threes, super bursty, super like bouncy. He can get up. He can get around guys with just pure burst. He can use screens a little bit. The defense is piss poor, but it's kind of like Benedict, where it's like you're carrying an entire offense on your back. It's fine.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to buff up a little bit, but I think that's something he can do. The core strength needs to come around. But if he gets those things fixed, they're super easy fixes as well. He's a top scorer in the league.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I respect it. I'll look more into him. At 20, are you sure we don't want to go with Colloquo though? Because I mean, we
That's
both love him.
I have 20. I have Colloquo at 20 on my board, but
Let's
there's
do it, man. Colloquo
one
20.
guy
Hell yeah.
ahead of him. I have
What's
one
that?
guy ahead, and that is John Butler, who I would be okay with not putting on there because I don't think he'll be in the draft.
Yeah, I don't think he will either, right?
So, I'll give a little sell on him, and then I'll let you wax poetic about Colloquo a little bit.
Yeah,
Well,
go
then
and
we'll
go.
end off with John Butler. He is 7 feet tall and just one of the most insane movers for his size ever. He's playing point of attack defense and nail defense at 7 feet tall for Florida State. He's nuts. He can also hit threes. Let me find his numbers for 3-point shooting, but he is hitting them off a little bit of movement. He is just like absolutely nuts. He's doing closeout attacks. He's super skinny. I think he's like Chet levels of skinny, but he shot 39% from three as a 7'1" wing on only like 84 attempts, but still pretty impressive. Pretty good stocks numbers: 7.5 block rate, 1.4 steal rate, which is really good for a 7-footer who's not playing at the rim. And he didn't get to the free throw line a bunch, but he was super crafty. His movement patterns are super funky. I think he goes back to school, comes back next year, and is probably a lottery pick if he's
Yeah.
even fine and plays more minutes.
He's
Uh,
he's
he's awesome.
7'1", 190.
Yeah,
Let me go
he's
look it up
skinnier
here.
than Chet.
Yeah, skinnier
Uh,
than Chet. Yeah.
but I don't think the size matters as much because he's a mega wing, not a big.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you want to give the sell on our favorite Christian Colloquo?
Definitely our mutual favorite center in the draft. Hey, well, besides
Yeah.
Chet, but
Yeah.
yeah. Well, actually, besides Dern, but like out of the not big ones, yeah. Yeah, Colloquo, man, I see a big with like pretty quick feet, right? And so I think he can defend in space, and I think that's such like a critical component of a modern NBA defense. And I see definitely a rim protector. Like I think he's definitely got a plus wingspan. Like he just has that man, all I ask for in a modern big is like give me quick feet and long arms, you know? And if you have those two things and you're at all coachable, you can become a defensive anchor. And I really think Colloquo has a chance to be like an NBA defensive anchor. On offense, like I don't think he's ever gonna be a 20 point per game scorer, you know, but like he's a pretty nifty passer. I know he makes some solid reads out of the short roll. Like he doesn't telegraph his dunks in pick and roll sets. He's not like, you know what I'm saying? Like he's not guaranteed to do the same thing every time. He's got a little bit of creativity. Like I think he could be a solid connective player on offense and a really strong defender at the NBA level. I think when you look at Mark Williams and especially Walker Kessler in comparison, they're both very like drop coverage, stationary bigs, and that's fine. There's a place for that too. But Colloquo could be like switchable, high end defensive center in the NBA, I think.
Yeah, he played the 4 and the 5 for Arizona,
Right.
despite being he's pretty tall. He is
I think he's supposed to be
7'1".
like 6'11". 7'1"?
He's 7'1",
All right,
officially
man.
listed. He might be. We'll call it 7 even, but he's
Yeah.
7 feet 225. So he is a little skinny for his size, but I think he can put on weight. He's a little older. He will be 22 exactly on draft night, but he plays the one position where I don't like the one role where I'm not too worried about the age.
That's true
And
too.
you're not trying to get him. He doesn't need to shoot threes. He doesn't need to do a ton of stuff. He's shooting 73.5% from the free throw line, which is fine.
Yeah.
That's like, you just need a big to shoot north of like 65, 70%.
Yeah.
And they won't really get played off the floor like that. He's the best mover of all the centers left by far. Mark Williams is a really good drop big, but I don't like his movement in space. I don't like his passing as much as I like Colloquo's. He's the slowest jumper in the draft, Mark Williams,
Right.
where Colloquo is super fast, and Colloquo is also the best screener in the draft, like
Yeah.
hands down. He's incredible,
Do you,
and Walker Kessler is just bad.
I don't like Kessler at all. No, I'm still out on Kessler. Man,
Yeah.
one thing I think about Kessler is like he's got this very remote chance of developing a three, so people like him, but it's like he's probably never going to be a 3-point shooter. And if
Have you
he is,
seen the numbers?
yeah, they're not great, right?
They're awful. Let me
Yeah.
pull them up because he's a stretch big shooting like 20% from three.
Yeah, come
It's
on, man. It's like
it's
I don't care about that.
I don't care about the block rates or anything like that, especially because
No.
he lets people blow by him and then goes for the chase down, which results in a lot more easy buckets than it does block shots. And
Exactly. Hassan Whiteside
yeah,
syndrome is what that is, right?
exactly. He's shooting
Yeah.
20% from three, under 60% from the free throw line.
Yeah, so that's not
That's
that's obviously a horrible indicator. Yeah.
that's awful indicators of
Yeah, no, I'm
stretchy.
not high on him. Do you think of some level? We should wrap up soon. I know you got a few names you want to shout out, but do you think on some level it's a bit of a traditionalist thing where guys look at like a Mark Williams, they're like that's like a big center that like as opposed to Colloquo probably weighs what 20 less pounds, maybe 30 less pounds. That's a little bit of a bias coming against Colloquo because to me, I think he fits the modern game a lot better than either of Williams or Kessler.
I agree with you. I think that the Mark Williams thing is like he's a 7-footer, 245, 250 pounds. He was super efficient. Like, I don't get me wrong.
I like
Good.
Williams.
He's good at his job.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
the stuff is like, I feel like if Christian Colloquo played on Duke and not on Arizona, he'd be getting the buzz that Mark Williams is getting because it's just so obvious. Colloquo is a great passer. He does all the stuff that you want a big man to do. And Mark Williams does them too, but he's just not as physically gifted and not as good at some of the smaller stuff.
Yeah.
Where Colloquo's switchier, he's better. I think that's really like you can't say much more on Colloquo. There's not stuff he does poorly. He's just great.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. And then
There's a big board, man. You got some guys I know you want to talk about that didn't make the cut. Jaden Hardy started off.
Yeah, let me go through and I'll do our 15 through 20. So we had Kendall Brown 13, Leonard Miller 14, Keegan Murray 15, Marjan 16, Johnny Davis 17, Jan Montero 18, Bryce McGowan's 19, Colloquo 20. And then some of the guys who missed the cut for me, I've like scouted, John Butler, but we agreed he's probably not going to be in the draft. And then Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara. I don't know if you've seen any of him. I just finished his tape recently. He is fucking awesome.
I know the name. That's all.
Yeah. And then Julian Champagny, I think elite shooter, can do all the forward stuff that you want a forward to do. Jake LaRavia out of Wake Forest, super connector, just awesome, can shoot the ball a little bit, basically the ideal modern four. And then guys that I think could be here that I just haven't seen enough of are Terquavion Smith out of NC State, Blake Wesley out of Notre Dame, and then Hugo Bassan from the Breakers. I think all those guys have a chance to be top 20, but they're all kind of wingier, guardier. I just haven't seen them enough, and they could be here.
Hugo Bassan, it's hard when you're playing alongside a superstar, right? Like it just
Yeah, no, Hugo's awesome though. He
looks good. He looks like a smart player, like solid, fundamental. Yeah,
great guard. I'd love to see him on a contender, just being a backup point guard who can score the shit out of the ball.
That's what he looks like. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Is there anybody that you want to shout out?
No, I mean, yeah, my once you get past the main guys, that's about it for me. Well, I guess maybe I might say that Ochai, I think, has the potential to be like a really solid utility player in the league, like a straight up 3-and-D that doesn't do shit else, but like you're kind of lucky to have him for 20 minutes a night, So he's a player I like that we ended up compromising out of our big board, and I'm totally fine with it, but I'll shout him out.
Yeah, I don't like Ochai for a lot of reasons, because like you're saying, he's just 3-and-D. I don't buy the D. The 3 is good.
Okay.
The rest of the game I just don't buy. And he's fine. I'd take him in the second. He's athletic. Maybe you get something out of him. But in the lottery, no.
Yeah.
Especially for the Rockets. But I think that's everything. We'll have the board splashed up on to show you guys. I don't want to go through and read the whole thing. Every single time that I've ever just like read out like a list of guys, it ends up becoming a shit show. But thank you for coming on. James, you're at James Piercy 11, writing for what's it called?
The Dream
You
Shake.
shout your stuff out.
Yeah. So I write for the Dream Shake. I write for NBAanalysis.net, and I write for here and there the Chop Shop, first and foremost, as yourself. And also I co-host a podcast called Above the Break with Nevin Brown. Check us out. And yeah, thanks for doing this with me, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was awesome. You can follow me at Ali_oop_coop. You can follow, I podcast with the Upside Swings. We do a ton of draft stuff. We're going to be doing a ton of draft stuff over the next coming months. We do go super in depth on all these guys. I write for the Chop Shop, doing mostly draft stuff. And yeah, I mean, I do some random shit, but it's mostly just on Twitter. Follow the Chop Shop. We have a lot of fun stuff planned. Thank you for tuning in. This was a ton of fun. Thanks for doing this with me, James.
Thank you.